It's today the 15th. Hello, everybody. Getting a lot of me this week. Today's the 15th. It is my 95th day in my second year. And this morning I had a thought about, this is I was walking, about what I'm going to call dueling dichotomies. And I may have even talked about this before. My memory's not so good. And I've noticed something different today. I feel like the hormones are making my face rounder. And it may be an optical illusion. I've noticed that my hair has gotten to the length that I think the weight of it is pulling it down like this. And it's not as poofy as it used to be. Now I can do this to my hair. I'm watching. And I can kind of get some of that fluffiness, that Rosanna Dana look to it. But now it looks like a helmet, But I'm wondering again if maybe it's got enough to it that it's going to start to pull it down, And a minute ago I tried to do the Princess Leia buns. I got little buns, although I have big buns in the back. But anyway, that's not what this is about. Other than me just saying I don't like the way I look today. But dueling dichotomies was my thought. And I'll stop looking at myself in the mirror in the little screen. Isn't it, and don't know if ironic, irony is not really the right word. But to me it's interesting that from a gender dysphoria point of view, we say the genderbread man, we say there's a spectrum, like a rainbow. There's a spectrum of gender. We say there's a spectrum of sexuality. We say there's a spectrum, multiple, who you identify with, male or female. Do you have masculine energy, feminine energy? Your attraction, is it, are you pansexual? Are you bisexual? Are you transsexual? Are you, there's like so many gradients out there. And probably, I'll even say, we tend to think of things on a linear scale, but what if instead it was three-dimensional? What if instead we had, an intersection and you could have like three-dimensional space of things? I mean, okay. Isn't it interesting, if you'll pardon you allow me to use that word, that as much as transgender folks say, I don't live in a binary world. I'm not, binary. We're kind of against this binary idea of male and female to a degree, right? And we say, the pronouns, you folks who don't go he, her, or she, they say them or he or z or she. I've heard different things phonetically. Isn't it interesting, again, I'm going to use that word, that, and I'm going to use myself as an example, as a trans woman, I want to be in the feminine camp. And maybe I'm saying if I have to live in a binary world, I want to live on the feminine side. I want to live on the female side. But isn't it interesting that we say, well, I don't believe in a binary system. I'm transgender. But yet we plant our flag, as it were, in a certain camp. I don't want to be called, for example, if I can be called female as opposed to trans female, I would prefer the female. I would prefer to be called a woman than a trans woman. Although I personally have a hard time, myself, as long as I have a penis, and I apologize for being so blunt, as long as I have a penis, I feel somewhat like I can't say I'm a woman, and yet here I do all of this work for nothing. to appear feminine and to present feminine, and I expected to be called ma'am and her and she and what and Mrs. and Miss and whatever else. But I realized this morning I thought it was kind of neat that in spite of that idea of a spectrum, you know, yes, you have a spectrum or a gradient between two extremes, but isn't it interesting that there must be a point of that gradation? And I'm using kind of a Photoshop analogy. If you use two colors and you can slide where the center of that is, there has to be a threshold, between if you choose red and blue, and as they come together, you're probably going to get different colors of purple and brown. It's using RGB, colors. But that slider, that you'll use to adjust how much distance on each side, that is your threshold. As you slide this, slider one way or the other, again, it just struck me as an interesting thing that I say, as a community, we say there's a spectrum, or this three-dimensional object as a visualization, and yet, I know for myself, I plant my flag. I'm building my fort. I'm building my personality in this female. It's like I'm saying I don't buy into the binary, and yet I make a decision that confirms, yes, it is binary. At least that's the argument, or at least that's my discussion here is. And I say dueling dichotomies only in that it's kind of like competition. You could say, for me, again, that argument, there's a gender spectrum. There is no pure male, pure female, and yet there is a threshold, and I plant my flag in the female camp. That is the dichotomy. Now, you have a whole group of people, and where we are in our society and our development, they probably have always been there, but now it's like gender fluid. And some of the young folks that I had the privilege to meet at the Louisville Youth Group really were gender fluid, And so, yeah, for them, there is no, is there really a dividing line? If you say you're gender fluid. And it's difficult because so much of our world is binary based. The hats behind me, you can see the straw hat on this side. It's a garden hat. I bought it at Meijer in the garden section. It was not male or female. Well, what's the first thing I did to it? Look at it. I put a bow on the back of it. You see the bow where my finger is? I had to take something that was gender neutral and feminize it because that's what I wanted to be and present as. And so again, here if I was saying gender neutral or fluid or whatever, in reality, I am in a binary system. I've bought into it. Now, that's the way I was raised. That's my programming as I was grown up, and to a certain degree, for myself, it's kind of what I believe in, But I'm open-minded, and again, what works for me is, it's my life. I don't expect anyone else to follow that, and we can hope. One of the Trans Women National folks had said something about, well, one day, we may get to the point in our society where, children are gender neutral. And, kind of like in the, I'm going to mix systems here, but in the Catholic Church, and again, I was raised Catholic, when you confirm your Catholicism, and I think most religions have that, trial period, and then you confirm confirmation or whatnot. I derailed myself. Okay, so children start off and they're kind of gender neutral, and then they will reach a point where they'll say, okay, no, I want to stay gender neutral, or, Terry is going to take this pill, estrogen, pill, and her body is going to become a woman. Or Terry will take the testosterone, and he will become a man. Up until that point, the children are just kind of gender neutral, and it's up to them to decide what they want to do. Now that kind of goes against our biology, the human being, DNA and whatnot, that, in the womb, our bodies mutate and, 50-50 or whatnot, XY, XX, YY, XYZ, PDQ. But again, if we got to that point, and it almost sounds like a Brave New World situation where in vitro fertilization or whatnot, we may actually become that gender neutral. And then again, you do it, and you have the option of taking a pill or getting a shot or, flicking whatever, and you're female or you're male or you're gender neutral, But that's almost science fiction-y, in our society. And I'm not an expert. I don't play one on TV, and I didn't stay at a Holiday Inn Express. Society has always been matriarchal or patriarchal or something in the middle. The Hebrew, the Jewish was more of a matriarchal system. You have certain tribes like the Amazon tribes and whatnot who are matriarchal, as well as patriarchal, which is kind of the Christianity and whatnot, oppressing women. But that's a whole other kit and caboodle, a whole nother tangled skein. But again, this is the idea of that dueling dichotomy that, I want to say, I can't say I'm gender fluid. I'm not. I want to be in the female camp, But isn't it interesting that, again, we say I'm open-minded, and we are open-minded to other people, but like I said, I don't want to be gender fluid. I want to be female, and my own personal, I won't feel, and this is my problem, I'm owning it. I don't think I'm going to feel 100% as feminine as I possibly could until I have my surgery, GCS, for myself. But, isn't it nice that we live in a world where you don't have to do that? You could be transgender, you be a trans woman and live as a woman and be a woman in your own mind and not have the surgery, and vice versa. You could go for trans men and everything else. They don't have to, a penis does not a man make, a vagina does not a female make. However, if the person believes that, then it's where they are. So, all right, well, that's kind of my odd thought, and I apologize if there's holes in it, that logical holes you could drive a tank through. But it struck me this morning as I was walking that, isn't it interesting that, initially when some 20, 30 years ago, when I kind of dealt with this the first time when I was a youngin', and I was like, oh, but I'm gender fluid. And here some 30 years later, I'm like, no, I'm not gender fluid. I am in a binary system, and I want to be a woman. I'm, like I said, planting my flag. I'm not pitching a tent here. I'm not raising a flagpole, but I am saying this is where I'm at. So anyway, if you have any thoughts, feel free to add it. I have noticed a trend somewhat. Someone will say something like, hey, cool video, please follow me on Instagram. And that's all they say, and I get them quite a bit, which makes me think it's spam. If you're genuinely a transgender person, I really welcome any comment you have, or if you're a cis person, I welcome any comment you have. We're in the light of trying to be a community and help each other out. That's kind of the way this, I think, kind of works. You have someone who mentors you, and then you pass that knowledge on, and we're here as a community to help each other out. But I'm really not interested in spamming and just popularity. I hope to be not a valuable resource, but I hope to be something kind of positive and helping people and myself, because I always watch these videos, and I'm probably the only one. So, if you're an Instagram spammer, you're really wasting your time if you send me an email that says, follow me on Instagram. I'm not going to do it. But I do post comments and respond to things. And again, I hope people can, if anything, as a forum, learn from my mistakes. That'd be what I would suggest. Okay, because by no means am I an expert, and I'm plowing my way through this. So, all right, friends, till next time. Bye. Good luck.